Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026 at 9:07 in the morning. So this morning we'll be hearing from members who have introduced bills this year to give them time to come in and explain their bills and see if there's anything there that we're interested in taking up, provided we have time, of course. So the first introduction is on 8520. Representative Priestley with us. Just switch seats.
Magic.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, committee. Okay, so 520 actually introduced as a short form at the end of last year, at the last minute. And I have a long form, ready to go, if the committee is interested in it. At the kind of the basic, the bill is requiring that social media companies provide individuals with the ability to delete their user data, obtain their user data. That's a weird phrase, in the portable format and transfer their user data to other social media platforms. This bill passed in Utah last year as the social media piece, and Utah is amending it this year to add AI data, user data basically to that as well. So the long form that I have has both the social media and AI platforms in one bill, and it could be separated out if we don't want to tackle two at the same time. Let's see, then just so you know who's like introducing it this year, New York, Virginia, Minnesota, South Carolina, Kentucky, and New Hampshire are all running this model this year. So I'll just go through some of the stuff. Basically the findings are that an individual should have a right to control and move their own user data and social interactions online. That companies have demonstrated a pattern of restricting interoperability between platforms. And maybe I'll just give an example. Like for instance, I'm going to leave Meta platforms like Instagram and Facebook, and my only real option is to just delete my accounts. I can't like keep my data. I mean, I can download it as a really awkward set of a bunch of HTML single files that share some information with me if I want a record of it. In some cases, when I've been doing the privacy tour, I actually had Vermont constituents who said they tried to delete their Meta profile and they weren't able to. I am going to test that myself and see if that's true for me. But alternatively, like I joined a Blue Sky, which is kind of an alternative to like X or Twitter. And then I also joined Flashes, which is like an Instagram alternative, and Lights, which are Skylight, which is basically a TikTok alternative. And in each of those cases, since they're all on the same open kind of protocol, as soon as I like added the other apps, but I shared across the accounts, all of my media from my Blue Sky account that was photos loaded into my Flashes, all of the videos that were in my Blue Sky account loaded into my Skylights account. So it just means that like I can continue adding apps where I want to continue having a presence and have that media kind of like follow me around. And then I can choose which apps I just don't want to be on anymore, but my data goes with me. It doesn't just go with the platform. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. And there's lots of the kind of the open atmosphere kind of like protocol that Blue Sky is on. There's other open protocols that people can sign up for. So it's just a kind of like in a way like a largely like open source for the people type of model rather than for the individual corporations being able to benefit from us. And a nice thing about those types of platforms is, and actually what's kind of messed up in joining these platforms is that I find myself, I'm not addicted to using Blue Sky because they don't use an algorithm and ads that are trying to addict me and keep me on there. So I'm spending much less time just going through on a daily basis saying like, I want to catch up with the news for the day, and then I'm done. I'm not like continuing to try to like, be basically just fed things that will keep me scrolling like on Facebook. So it's a fascinating mental activity to switch platforms and see kind of that. And the other piece of this is kind of an extension to artificial intelligence kind of apps, chatbots and things like that, where you're loading in your data. That one company has your data. You can't move it to another platform. For instance, like I've used ChatGPT, but I've also used Lumo, I've used Gemini, that kind of stuff. And like my only real option is just to delete my history if I'm going to move across them. This additionally has some privacy protections in here. So the rights to the user is that their data is portable, that it's usable, and then it can go to a different platform. The user also has the right to opt out of the processing of their user data for the purposes of targeted advertising and sale of their user data. Yeah, and then this has severability between the sections like the artificial intelligence, social media sections. Yeah, I guess that's the gist. Yeah.
I'm wondering if we could take that delete portion of it and throw it into whatever bill we were just talking about.
So 211, so the data broker bill. So these are just two different target, like it's kind of like kids code where it's that the kids code bill really only applies to generally social media platforms for kids. It doesn't apply, like the comprehensive data applies to all platforms where kids might have their data in the internet in general. And it's the same thing for like 211 is focused on data brokers that are selling and carrying the data. And this applies to social media and AI companies.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of being able to delete my data from a server like that, and to be able to access my data to see what kind of, stuff
Yeah.
figured out about me, and was, my only concern is like what happens, right? Like, how far does the bill go? Does it start to go into some issues? And you said you have a long form?
Yeah, I have a long form. Yeah, which I can share with you guys. And I have like a one pager and that kind of stuff too. And I work really closely. The sponsor for the Utah bill that passed last year, Doug Fiafia, Rep. Doug Fiafia, we co-chair the Future Caucus, the AI National Future Caucus AI Task Force together. I work really closely together too, so he can also help present. And he was at Google for 5 years before becoming a rep. So, yeah.
So, big picture, it sounds like a anti-restraint of trade kind of bill.
What? We're getting too technical on me.
Barriers for competitors.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah, like an antitrust. Yeah.
Remove those barriers
Yes.
to
Exactly.
what seems like a
Exactly.
trade.
Yes.
I just like the delete and getting your information part of it, just for clarity.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I mean, I think the thing for me, like struggling on wanting to like leave platforms is like, for me, like I kind of want to have an account on Meta so that I have it tied to business accounts and that kind of stuff, and legislative accounts. There are people that are not going to leave those platforms. I want that accessible, but I want to be able to delete the 20 years of my life that I've put on those platforms. I can't do that easily without deleting my entire account, which is like ridiculous. Yeah.
So you're not talking about deleting all data, you're talking about deleting data for timeframes?
No, I mean both, just in general, like
Okay.
to give users more control over what is on these platforms and whether or not you can move it to other things.
And I think the delete and accessing your data is something that I would be interested in. I'm a little leery of the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned Utah
Yeah.
passed this bill and
Yeah.
they're modifying it. Anybody else? And has it gone into effect yet?
So, you know what? I'm not sure. I can get the Utah date. I'm actually not sure. I think that probably went into effect right away because this one goes into effect like right away. I will double check though, Edie. And the interesting thing about Utah is obviously like majority red Republican governor, who is a major national champion for this bill. And so that is exciting to me too. This is a very bipartisan bill across the country. So Utah's the only one that passed it, and I'll check the inaction date. New York and Vermont introduced it at the same time at the very end of last year, as short forms. And then, yeah, these other states are going with it this year.
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering, this, when you were talking about the photos and the ability to kind of move from one to the
Mhm.
other, would this also apply to something like Google or like Google Drive?
You know what? I am not sure. I gotta double check as far as like how that social media definition interplays.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they're a gray area.
yeah. I'll double check on that. Yeah.
Questions? Thank you for stopping by. Tony?
It's just in case I need it. Not used to the seat. It's hot.
You're welcome.
It's hot now, we haven't started questioning.
So my bill is very simple. It's H525 and it has to do with glass coverage. This came to me by a constituent who has replaced 5 windshields in 4 years. And she was concerned because she can't seem to get a good, she's having a hard time with glass coverage. So what this bill proposes is it has insurance companies give people the option to buy into a zero deductible glass coverage. Right now in Vermont statute, there's no mandate for insurance companies to require glass coverage. And there's certainly nothing that specifically requires them to offer or provide it. And what this bill would do is it would make insurance companies have to offer some sort of a product. It would not be mandatory. It would just be an option. When I did a little research, 3 states came to mind that have similar laws. That's Arizona, Connecticut, and Minnesota. So in both of in Arizona, insurers writing private passenger auto with comprehensive coverage must provide at the insured's option complete coverage for repair replacement of damaged safety equipment without a deductible. Connecticut has a very similar thing, and Minnesota as well. One of the other things that bears mentioning is nowadays with a lot of the cars with like adaptive cruise control and things like that, it's not just replacing the glass. You now have those cameras that are up top and they all need to be recalibrated. There's some expense involved in that. And basically what this bill would do is I don't want to force an insurer to do anything, but this bill makes them at least offer this coverage. That's pretty much it. Question?
I think I see clearly.
Really bad, because we didn't catch it up here.
What?
Quite loud enough. Michael?
Do you have an idea of how many companies do not offer coverage? I tried to go and look and see if I even have coverage.
I don't know. I don't have any idea. I mean, I'm not going to say to the constituent, well, shop around, So I know that some, I don't know as if, I guess I haven't really talked to any of the specific insurance companies in the area about it.
Did you talk with Jamie, Ian?
I didn't get a chance to.
We got an email from somebody
Yeah, I saw that.
talking about it. It was interesting, just that the concern, at least from this industry person, is about fraud, is about that anyway. potential for using it for fraudulent claims. I'm not saying that's.
How that would work. I mean, and some of the ways I've seen the way the bill's been written, it's, one of, some of these places, it says you need to see if you can patch it first. Like you have you can do the windshield, yeah, that thing. Before you can actually get the full coverage. So there's a process that needs to go through. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that because I'm not sure. I'm not seeing how someone could really be fraudulent with this any more than anything else.
I'm guessing you got the email too.
I probably did.
Yeah, and it's also posted on.
I don't know if it's.
Jonathan?
I think my question was sort of about this as well, and about, I guess, inducements, including premium stakes, which seem important to consider. But the question is, do you happen to know if in Arizona it's compulsory in a way that the bill you're positing is not?
I know it's not compulsory. It just needs to be provided. I would imagine that they need to at least let the client know that you can get glass coverage at zero deductible. But there's nothing that I wouldn't say no, not compels them that they have to get it. If I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, the question was if Arizona has language. If it had pointed out that, all of a sudden 10% of the stuff seemed to be happening in Arizona in a 4-year period. And the question was, all right, is Arizona's legislation somehow requiring more, requiring something that Representative Nicholas, your bill is not requiring? And I was just looking for a distinction there. But thank you.
No, not that I know of. I mean, granted, I didn't look at the actual bill in Arizona. I just kind of pulled a summary.
Maybe good to have a conversation with Deputy Commissioner Block at DFR. See what they're seeing and see if there's a need. I'm wondering how the department is looking at auto glass repair with the issues with recalibration of the cameras and all of that stuff. And how that's affected or if it has affected the policies that are written now.
I know that in my situation, I've had to actually use this with the calibration. And I pay a deductible in my plan. And I did have to specifically ask for the broken glass coverage.
And it seems like a selling point for an agent, but or an insurance company, if you're online, to kind of put it out there that, here it is, and I don't know if we really need to tell them they have to do that, but. Yeah, so you can have a chat with Jamie and have a chat with Ms. Deputy Commissioner as well. Emily?
I was looking up the Arizona statute. This one says it's from 2016. And it looks like in there it is illegal to make any kind of false claims to an insurer about your auto glass repair. I'm not exactly sure where the stakes come in to that whole conversation, but it does seem like you might be able to put some guardrails around to ensure that false claims and excessive late claims aren't happening.
Right. And this doesn't.
We might already have.
In the statute.
Yeah, and this does, I poked around a little bit because this doesn't say you can't have limits on the glass cover, just like you would now. I think my policy is, 2 per policy period or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is Representative Donahue.
I will said something. Good question. That's good. Let's keep it front and center.
Morning, Ian.
Well,
You're.
I'll seat ready for you.
and you're right. What great, impressive committee, time management for that. Well, good morning, I'm Anthony from Northfield. I really appreciate you taking up this bill, recognizing that short form bills sometimes get short shrift. And there was an important reason that that this was most appropriate to be short form. This bill is proposing a mandate for motor vehicle insurance to provide a discount for participation in driver safety courses. And this came to myself and my colleague from Northfield from a constituent who moved here from another state where that program existed and seemed to be highly beneficial. He was surprised to find out we didn't have one. And it did seem like a positive thing, but I needed to know a little more. And the Department of Insurance folks were able to do a little research for me. And it turns out that there's 35 other states that offer these programs. Most of them are designed in ways that they are revenue neutral. I was immediately thinking, yeah, but what would it cost? The fees for participation in the courses offset fully, pay for. Some of them, they do it a lot of different ways. Some of them are actually just a total subcontract, if you will. Others are more state run. And that really goes to why it seemed like a short form to introduce the concept, because there's good work and good programs running in lots of other states, but they all do it a little differently. And so for me to pick and say, okay, can Ledge Council draft a whole program doing this, when in fact, with just a small amount of testimony, this committee might feel like, actually, there's a lot of other things that should be considered. So they were very much on top of it right away in terms of being aware of, finding out what other states are doing, gave me some examples on some of the variations that states did in terms of where they, some of them were age allocated. Gave an example, ages 55 to 69 get a 3-year discount and 70 plus a 2-year discount. I mean, they had all sorts of different ways and different ways of funding it and organizing it. I think there probably is a lot of opportunity to do something good for Vermont safety on the roads, because it really incentivizes taking safety courses and updating safety skills. And it appears that it has not been controversial or generated opposition from the insurance industry when those programs have been initiated, because they see, the plus, and they're all on an even playing field if it's a mandatory offering that is made. So I would really encourage the committee. I know that we're in the second half of a biennium. There's not a lot of time between now and the crossover date. So, taking days of testimony to identify what might work is not realistic for me to even be proposing. What I would suggest is that it's worthy enough to maybe spend a little bit of time having the department come in and talk about it, and then asking them to come back with not to pass this year, but come back with a concept proposal for what Vermont could be doing to offer this, giving some time, come back next year maybe and say, here's a model that we think could work well here. But to sort of endorse the concept to be fleshed out and move forward, because it really seems of value.
Questions?
That's, so you're suggesting to see if the agency is interested in doing.
Or to encourage
Yeah,
the agency, yeah. They were clearly recognized, states are doing it. They referenced to my initial question that, that they offer, motor vehicle insurers currently in Vermont may offer that. They can do a discount for driver safety. And it's a very different approach to say, well, you must offer this. And that's when they looked into it further for me and said 35 other states, and they took a look at some of them and saw the different kinds of models. So getting a bit more of a recommendation of, well, which of these various other states' methods of doing it would seem to be a good match for Vermont to look into more. I think that would be the next question.
Thanks. I appreciate every time we look at what another state is doing that's working well and try to replicate it. I think that's incredibly helpful. We have pretty low insurance costs right now compared to other states. So I would be curious as to how much of the benefit would be, and would the fees actually offset, right? Like how that would work. So I think you're right. I think somebody looking into it makes sense. I also thought that it was interesting. I went to the one of the insurance conferences this year, and they talked about many other states where the insurance companies have climate mitigation strategies that actually save the homeowner, the landowner money because of that. And so it's built in, and this is, again, this is not partisan. Every state, every insurance company has figured out that there are ways that they do better and save money and by doing certain things. And if insurance companies are finding that they save money by having safer drivers, which they are, yes, this is a win-win across the board. So I really appreciate thinking about those kind of things.
And I think to your point, that the amount of the reduced rate as a benefit, is an insurance calculation in terms of the savings by reduction in accidents, which of course is much more important even than the financial savings, but the life impact savings.
Sure. Intuitively, it seems like this would stop accidents, save money. But did you see any data on it for the states that have implemented this? Have they done any type of data gathering to find out, what the accident rate was in those age groups before they implemented this, and now how is it after they implemented?
I don't know on an individual state basis. Intuitively, they wouldn't continue with something that was losing money. But I have to say that the individual who brought this to me actually had done a fair amount of looking into experiences of other states, and would be very happy to respond to any questions from the committee or to briefly testify about some of the more specific details and information that he's found in support of doing this.
Do the other states that mandate a percentage that insurance companies have to give for a discount?
I do not believe any of them mandate a specific percentage. And I think that's where it becomes the actual market impact. There may be some of them because they all differ so much.
Wondering how, I know AARP provides driver training for their members. And I wonder if those states tie into, or if the insurers tie into AARP to help AARP pay for the courses, and then
I'm sure some of them do. Apparently, some of them it is a state-run safety course. It runs that whole range to being, any program that meets our criteria and so forth.
I think it's interesting. I think it's probably a good idea to ask DFR to take a look at that and bring recommendations back next year on what we should do.
So Geico offers a discount and I just went on their site and it says, pick a state for an authorized course, and Vermont does not offer a defensive driving discount at this time.
Great. I think that's approval of let's go. EFR, how they would like us to approach it, put it in if our bill, or we could just send a letter to them like we did last year, this thing. Okay, great.
Appreciate that very much.
Roseanne?
And if anybody has follow-up question that I could refer back to my constituent, he would be happy to respond also to questions if you just want, by email or whatever,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yes, it's the knowledge. Yeah. It's discussing that.
Hi again.
Long journey from across the room. Cool. So this is 699. An act relating to consumer protection from abusive acts or practices. The two that I'm gonna do are super short. I think basically the background on this is in all of kind of the learning and talking with folks at state levels, but also like national levels, FTC folks and things like that, and law professors who do deep dives into data privacy and AI regulation. I've been trying to, we have the Comprehensive Data Privacy Act and the artificial intelligence, like product liability bills that are long and super technical and complicated and are very specific on addressing all types of things. A curiosity for me learning kind of in these spaces with people is, are there kind of like more direct things there that are much more simple that can get at the roots of what we're actually talking about? Like, are there ways that we don't have to write a 50-page or 100-page bill, that we can write a 2-page bill that actually like covers a lot of the grounds that we're looking at addressing? In all these conversations, it kept on coming up over and over and over that small tweaks could be made to the underlying consumer protection acts across states across the country. And so one of those discussions I end up having with like law professors, but also FTC regulators and AGs, was that we have unfair and deceptive practices and acts in our Consumer Protection Act, but an area that actually could very kind of elegantly provide tools for regulators in a very subtle way is to add abusive practices to that. The bill that you have, if it's in front of you, is really generally based off of a policy statement that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had put out as a policy statement in 2010, and then they updated it in 2023. It is not rules. They're not hard rules. They're just a policy guidance, basically framework, but it's based off of that. And let's see. So I'm just going to go over. So as far as like what is an abusive act or practice, first, a material interference with understanding. So it's conduct that obscures or makes it difficult for consumers to understand terms or conditions of a financial product or service. So, and then generally this is like extended to not just financial products, but like certain, like actual, all the stuff that we're trying to do when it comes to like privacy and AI. And so the examples of this are, and I think everybody will relate, buried disclosures, fine prints, jargon. So 100-page privacy policies, AI policies that nobody reads and they just click. Digital or physical obstacles. So things like pop-ups, hidden notices, a lot of dark pattern stuff. So this committee is very familiar with the dark patterns of like burying things or getting people to do things that they might not otherwise do, clicking that cookie consent banner, but not actually like reading it. overshadowing key information and omission of things that people should actually know. An intent to cause confusion, and let's see. And then an abusive act or conduct may also occur when an unfair advantage is taken of any consumer. So kind of feeding into a lack of understanding of the full risks, costs, or conditions of which they're doing. So for instance, if you're opting into having your data be shared with companies, do you actually fully understand what that means and what is then happening with your data? An inability to protect your own interests. Basically not understanding what you're giving away and the cost of that to you, kind of, and who gets the power in that situation. Like, what are you actually giving to somebody else that you're taking away from yourself? Reasonable reliance on an entity to act in the consumer's interest, not just in their own, and taking advantage of them. In this case, unlike the unfair and deceptive, you don't actually it doesn't actually require proof that there's substantial harm to be done, just that the practice is abusive. So you're focusing on the way that it's being carried out, not the outcome of it. It's and let's see, trying to think. That's the general. It's a super short 3-page bill where the actual changes don't even make up a page. But yeah.
Do we have any guidelines on what's considered abusive?
Yeah, so that's pieces of this, like the high level guidelines are in the bill, but then, and what I just went over, but then it gives the AG rulemaking to define those. Yeah, on an ongoing basis, yeah. Uh-oh.
So I love doing simple changes to make big impact, right? Like that, I like the way that feels. What do we think section 230, how that would interplay with this? So isn't that?
I don't think, so not a section 230 expert, but from what I have had to be diving into that with, I feel like the thing that usually comes up with that is it's user content. It's not user choice. So it's so this isn't restricting the users from doing anything. It's how the company interacts with them and the choices the companies give them. Yeah. But again, not an expert, so I don't know if I'm missing something.
They have used it to protect them from everything so far.
Yeah, I talked to a variety of state AGs across the country and multiple FTC folks who specialize in this stuff. And generally the two camps were, this is super needed, it's an elegant solution, we should do it. Federal government should have done it. Probably won't happen under this current situation. And then others were like, I don't know that we can't justify already using deceptive and unfair. But I think the big piece here is the harms, not having to prove the harms thing and showing the patterns that are being used, kind of like the kids code where we're although we are talking about harms with the kids code, but we're getting at what are the design mechanisms that are actually getting people into hot water. And so that's why I like this one, is it's getting to how are people actually designing and implementing their products in a way that confuses people and gets them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise necessarily do if they fully understood what they were doing.
So a product that is designed to take advantage of a consumer, whether the consumer is harmed or not, the problem, or because there's still harm.
Right. Yeah. And
Right? So it's
yes.
a hard circle to square.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of had a sense of a question around. I'm not that familiar with how courts have applied the existing standards.
Yeah.
Deceptive.
Yeah.
And, generally as a rubric, geez, that sounds like unfair. These practices sound kind of unfair to me, kind of thing. But I guess So I'm trying to understand what's added to this,
Yeah.
other than, maybe some specific types of things that you might consider unfair and accepted.
Yep.
Oh, the other issue was, the proof of harm you're saying is required. What would, why, how would a court think about the abusive types of practices and whether you need to show harm in that too?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the dark part, like the dark pattern types of pieces of this, where it's like, you can, I think like again, any one of us who have been talking about the elements of the Privacy Act or data broker, selling our data, like we are giving away things without realizing it. And I think like that, you can see that practice and you can see the outcome of that in a way, but in some of these cases, like you might not see the actual harm that's done until somebody's identity gets stolen, but like the practices are putting them at risk.
I do like the sort of general notion of having that sort of organic approach to, the issue and creating general standard and then having
Yeah.
things play out
Totally.
organically based on some fact situations.
Yeah. And again, there's I am not an expert in the UDAP and Consumer Protection Act. So I'm going off of what I've been trying to learn. But there's plenty of people who will come in and help further explain this in a way that is much more elegant than me.
Okay.
Yeah. Next one. Okay, so H706, an act relating to internet browsers and data selling. Okay, so this is one of those things that kind of like the data broker bill, that we don't have the Consumer Protection Act in place yet. There's like elements that kind of reference and build off of each other. So this is an element that kind of would build off the Consumer Protection Act. And it's a bill, AB 566 in California passed this past year, and it's the browser opt-out bill. And so essentially the reason that this is like a necessary piece to add on as a building block to the Consumer Protection Act is that when we are in that bill and in the data broker bills, we are putting in mechanisms that say that people will opt out of certain things, like opt out of cookie tracking, opt out of the targeted advertising, that kind of thing. And so currently, as the internet is kind of like set up, people have to opt out on every single like web page, but there are browsers that could be done at the browser level. So like, for instance, like I use DuckDuckGo. And so in DuckDuckGo, there's a setting that says like, opt me out of this stuff, like any of this stuff, everywhere I go. And in some cases you have that, like you can see that on your phone. You can like opt out of mobile advertising on your phone with the click of a box. But most of the browsers that many people are used to using, generally the general kind of broader public, Chrome, Safari, Edge, that kind of stuff, like don't always have that type of setting. And then web pages don't always respect that global kind of like setting on browsers if people do have them. So they can ignore that if that DuckDuckGo, Brave, any of the kind of like privacy browsers, when they have that setting that says anywhere I go, don't let these websites track me, the websites aren't always respecting that opt-out mechanism. And so this kind of puts that in place, that would be respected as a choice that a user has done globally. Yeah. Again, super short 3-pager.
Did you say this is being done somewhere?
So I was trying to check for you before I got up here to see when it went into effect, but it was passed in California. So the governor signed it. And I don't know if Zach knows. Phone a friend.
Yeah, the other side, it's not into effect. But it's a.
Okay, I'll double check that. But and then actually I wanted to follow up on your past one. July 1st was for the Digital Choice Act in Utah. It's this year. It'll go into effect. Yeah.
So are there any concerns about refusal of service? For example, right now, if you use an ad blocker, you can go to sites and they'll say, we're sorry, you're using an ad blocker and that's how we make money. So we're not going to allow you
Yeah,
access to this unless you turn on your ad blocker. Is there any concerns of this happening with someone with like cookies where them saying, well, since you're not going to take our cookies, we're not going to do business with you.
It does have a reference to 2453 as far as they need to do it, otherwise they'll be in trouble under the Consumer Protection Act.
Okay.
So yeah. I feel like that would get people to not do it. Yeah.
Okay, just one.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah, I'll ask though. That's a good question, but yeah.
The whole comment about, you're not gonna take my cookies.
Yeah.
That should be the name of the game this morning. We just bought ourselves. Great.
Ooh, coffee.
So we go offline, we'll be back on at 15 to hear from Representative Archie
Jeez.
on 8/6.